Can't Be Influenced, where we talk about news and influencers, from celebrity to social media. Let's get into it. Hey guys, and welcome back to another episode of Can't Be Influenced, where we talk about all things entertainment news. Today's episode, we have something about monkey brains, Amazon employees arrested for stealing nearly $600,000 worth in iPhones, Space Karen, and a little bit of interesting history on current President Donald Trump and our elect Joe Biden. So stay tuned and let's jump into it all. Monkeys are pretty smart, but they act on impulse more than anything. Just like how we have the ability to control our impulses. They don't, right? For instance, if someone cuts you off on the road when you're driving, you get annoyed or yell. But imagine if we had a monkey brain. We would probably just run right into them with our car. So no impulse control. So thank goodness for our civilized brain, I suppose. But now scientists are trying to make monkeys smarter? What? Okay, so on the news article Popular Mechanics, they have an article talking about scientists, how they're using human genes to make monkey brains bigger. I don't know about you, but it sort of freaks me out. I mean, it's kind of cool, I guess, but I feel like this could go wrong. It literally would be like Planet of the Apes. I don't think that would happen, but you never know. So in this article, they talk about how scientists introduced the human gene, and this is a long one, ARHGAP11B, into monkey fetuses. They go on to explain this gene by saying that gene ARGHAP11B arose in our ancestors some 5 million years ago, when a happy little accident was made copying the everyday gene, that ARGHAP11A, in an evolutionary mistake, a single substitution of one nucleotide base, which is the molecules that encode DNA. And then that with another led to the loss of 55 nucleotides from that gene that we've said like 3 times. It's like a computer reading an incorrect line of code. The mutation caused the neuron-producing cells of the brain to make more of themselves for longer periods of time, resulting in a larger neocortex. And by the way, a neocortex is a part of the cerebral cortex concerned with sight and hearing in mammals, regarded as the most recently evolved part of the cortex. The article states the scientists call these human-monkey hybrids transgenic, non-human primates, which may be enough to ring the alarm of any doomsdayer. It certainly raises a lot of ethical questions when doing experiments on primates, let alone with introducing human genes into other animals. And, quote, for this reason, the researchers limited their study to monkey fetuses, which were taken out by C-section after growing for 100 days, allowing the experiment to go past the fetal phase and let the human gene-carrying monkeys to be born, which would be irresponsible and unethical, study co-author Wylan Huttner said in the press release. Huttner said in the article that in light of potential unforeseeable consequences with regard to postnatal brain function, we considered it as a prerequisite and mandatory from an ethical point of view to first determine the effects of that gene we've been talking about, the ARHGAP11B, the effects of that on the development of fetal marmoset neocortex. And the marmoset is a small Central and South American monkey, so that's what they're doing it on. All I really have to say about this, there's a lot more research that's going on that we don't know about, I'm sure. Things are always changing and evolving, and technology is getting better and better. So of course these types of studies are happening. What do you think about it? Let me know. Okay, so reading from the article AI, they say that a group of 5 Amazon employees has been arrested for allegedly stealing iPhones from a logistics center in Madrid, Spain, in an operation that is believed to have involved the theft of 500,000 euro, which is approximately 592,000 in goods. So the arrests were made following an internal investigation by Amazon itself, discovering there were issues with some packages sent to customers due to some having weight different from what the actual order was expected to weigh. The detected differences prompted Amazon to install hidden cameras to find out what was happening. It was determined a group of workers were slipping new iPhones like the iPhone 12 and iPhone 12 Pro into orders secretly, replacing the actual ordered contents of a package at the last moment. iPadizate reports it is believed the orders were placed by an accomplice. 3 of the 5 people implicated in the theft ring were arrested upon leaving work, and a 4th was picked up while working. The 5th turned himself into the police voluntarily. All 5 have been fired by Amazon and are awaiting trial, as it should be. The workers were found to have 10 iPhones in their possession, intended to be dispatched out using the same method that they were doing. They were also carrying a large number of stickers with IMEI numbers, seemingly torn from boxes to hamper the investigation. So we all have IMEI numbers on the back of our phones, our electronics. It's almost like its own personal social security number or whatever. You can track devices that way. So yeah, they had those on them to tamper with everything. Further arrests have not been ruled out, with investigations continuing to determine where the dispatched iPhones ended up, so where they're sending them. It is estimated €500,000 worth of devices were stolen by the group. The popularity and premium nature of iPhones make them a target for thefts. So in March, €3 million euros worth of iPhones were taken from Amsterdam's Schiphol airport, followed by €530,000 worth of Apple Watches the following May. Okay, this brings me to a personal story that happened at least 5 years ago or so. What happened was I was looking for an at-home job to be home with my kids at the time and stuff. And I saw a post on Indeed for a packager or something along those lines. It didn't strike me as fishy, and I saw Indeed as a trusted site. I thought they really go ham on making sure the jobs posted were accurate and not, scams. So I applied, and of course I got the job. Then things did get weird. So the guy who was supposed to be my quote-unquote boss had an awful signal, which I didn't totally hold against him. It could be anything. But it was my first red flag after he would drop calls and so on, in the middle of conversations, or if I asked an important question, which was a little fishy, but I kept going on. So basically, to get to the bottom of the story, I received packages, and inside of them, there were iPads and iPhones. My job was to go to the post office and send it off to the forwarding address that they put on there or whatnot. And the address that it said it was from, we found out soon after, is from the people that these guys steal credit card information from to buy these products. So basically the items were stolen and they were illegally bought using people's credit card information. We turned it in and all that good stuff, but you guys, make sure you're always on your guard and trust your gut. It sucks that there's so many scams that you have to weed through, especially with technology and how it's only getting better. Cybercrime is a pain in the ass. But speaking on technology and advancing in technology, let's move on to the man himself, Elon Musk, who really just wants to turn everything AI and all that. So Elon Musk has been dubbed Space Karen, according to, everyone on Twitter. Elon made a string of tweets complaining that there's something up with COVID testing after he had his test come back all weird, I guess. See, with the rapid testing that he did, it takes that positive result, or the positive result won't really show up unless you are really riddled with the virus. So he must not have read the fine print there, or maybe even bold print, because I feel like everyone should know that. If you don't, okay, now you do. So now he is Space Karen, and the pictures of him where people edited a wig on his head is hilarious. You should check it out if you want a good pick-me-up today. I'm sure, hopefully, Musk is laughing as well. I think he might be a meme now. Now, on to our main story, Trump and Biden. Boy, oh boy. It doesn't matter where you stand at this point. We are just going to go into the history of both, basically pointing out some main things from each, and then we'll talk a little bit about it, just a little bit. So we'll start with Trump, and we're going to make this all light. I don't want to get too deep into anything or whatever, because I don't want my podcast to be that too dark or ripping on anyone or anything like that. So, all right. Trump's always been the businessman, not so much a politician. So he was born in New York in 1946. His parents sent him to a military academy when he was just 13 in hopes that it would keep him on the right track. I don't know about you, but I wouldn't want to send my child off like that, but okay. Anyways, he graduated from there in 1964 and jumped right into college at Fordham University for 2 years, and then decided to transfer to Wharton School of Finance at the University of Pennsylvania, where he graduated in 1968 with a degree in economics. During his college years, he was helping part-time with his dad's real estate business. He has 4 siblings, which I believe is 2 sisters and 2 brothers, making him one of 5 children, all which pretty much either worked with their father too, like Trump, besides one becoming a pilot and the other a judge, which his sister was the judge, and she had to resign or something like that because when he ran for presidency, I think that is, when he won presidency, I think that's when she had to kind of resign. All the information is credited to the online article called Biography, which I'm going to read a snippet from there. So it's, Trump followed his father into a career in real estate development, bringing his grander ambitions to the family business. Trump's business ventures include the Trump Organization, Trump Tower, casinos in Atlantic City, and television franchises like The Apprentice and Miss Universe. We all know about Miss Universe, don't we? Didn't he have some kind of thing going on with that too, where he'd watch the women get dressed or undressed? Trump has business deals with the, I think it's Javits Center in the Grand Hyatt, New York, as well as the other real estate ventures in New York City, Florida, and Los Angeles. Federal income disclosure forms Trump filed in 2017 list Trump's golf courses, including Trump's National Doral and Mar-a-Lago in Florida, as earning about half of his income. Other financial ventures include aircraft, merchandise, and royalties from his 2 books, The Art of the Deal and Crippled America, How to Make America Great Again. In 1987, Trump published the book, The Art of the Deal, co-authored with Tony Schwartz. In the book, Trump describes how he successfully makes business deals. I don't do it for the money. I've got enough. Much more than I'll ever need. I do it to do it. Deals are my art form, Trump wrote. The book made the New York Times bestseller list, although the number of copies sold has been debated. Sales have been estimated at between 1 to 4 million copies to date. Schwartz later became an outspoken critic of the book and of Trump, saying he felt remorseful for helping make the president more appealing than he is. You can't really find too much on his net worth because he hasn't been totally honest on his tax returns, or he hasn't released them as he states he has done, I guess. But in the article it says, a May 2019 investigation by the New York Times of 10 years of Trump's tax information found that between 1985 and 1994, his businesses lost money every year. The newspaper calculated that Trump's businesses suffered $1.17 billion in losses over the decade. And of course, Trump later defended himself on Twitter, calling the Times report a highly inaccurate fake news hit job. He tweeted that he reported losses for tax purposes and that doing so was a sport among real estate developers. It was also said that Trump and his father, when they were working together, discriminated against tenants based on their race and violated the Fair Housing Act. Trump later wrote about the resolution of the case in his 1987 memoir, Art of the Deal, and he said, in the end, the government couldn't prove its case, and we ended up taking a minor settlement without admitting any guilt. Which just sounds like another one of Trump's made-up scenarios, not to hold himself accountable, to be honest. It's not so much an opinion as it's proven. Which leads me to his accusations on voting fraud. It has so many people confused, some angry, and some right there to back him up. It's safe to say that Trump has created a division between many people that just let these matters get in between themselves and their neighbor. According to what I have researched and looked into, there was no solid proof of voter fraud, and Trump's lawyers couldn't stand on that in court either. When asked if they had proof of these allegations, they had to basically throw in the towel and bite the bullet and say, not at this time, no. So if that tells you anything, guys, I don't want to stir the pot, but I'm stating out the facts right now, and nothing can really be proven. Maybe something will come out, and I could be wrong, but I'm going to say I doubt that. Let's jump back into Trump's past and some things he's done. For instance, paying a Playboy bunny girl to sleep with him, which threw her off. Okay, so she thought he had an actual interest in her when they first started seeing one another. But after the first night of them being together, he offered to pay her, and this hurt her feelings and all that stuff. But she continued to go back and see him. People were calling her a gold digger, and that she was just in it for the money. I mean, the interview I watched of her, she was asked what was it about Trump that she liked, and she talked about his good posture and handsomeness. Okay. To each their own, I guess. Anyways, they continued seeing one another until she broke it off about 10 maybe around 10 months later, because she was just too guilty since, he was married. This was all right before he ran for presidency in 2016, which also, this happened. So, he was also in a heap of muck for literally paying a porn star outright for sexual acts. So, there you go. I don't know about you guys, but already this just speaks volumes to me on what kind of person he is. Remember, money can't buy happiness, but it can make things really confusing, and it can make yes men out of the ones around you. What a way to live. Besides being one of the most controversial presidents to date, what are some of the good things about Trump? Well, I guess we shouldn't get into that because honestly, I'm not a billionaire, so him and I have different opinions on what's quote-unquote good. We could dig deeper here, but I would prefer to keep this light, like I said before, and brief for the sake of all of us. So with that, I'd like to move on to Biden. Then once we finish up a little on him, we can have a little discussion on what's currently going on without trying to make any of your eyes twitch, okay? Joe Biden is president-elect and has been in politics ever since he was 30. I found it pretty interesting that he was one of the youngest senators to ever enter in. Well, yeah, actually, to ever enter in. And now he's the oldest coming in as president. His history is a bit more tragic, but not only that, it seems to be much more relatable to the average person or American. So, at least more so than Trump's. And I'm not trying to be very biased here, but I'm just kind of stating the facts. And it is a kind of hard, but let's move on. He lost his wife and very young daughter in a car accident, while his 2 sons survived that incident, but they were severely injured. He struggled with this, but persisted through and put everything he had into his children, his sons. There's an interview I watched over, and it's with Oprah, and it took place around 2017, I think. But he talks about the book he wrote that's called Promise Me, Dad, A Year of Hope, Hardship, and Purpose. And that's where he talks about his life growing up and his own dad's and mom's teachings to him about and just many other things. He got through many of his hardships, like the death of his son, which his son was 46, and he passed due to brain cancer. But a lot of this he got through was due to his belief that his loved ones stuck with him and lived through him and his remaining children and grandchildren. So just a positive outlook and kind of living on the legacy. Now, this is coming from the article again of Biography, but they state how, as a child, Biden struggled with a stutter and kids called him Dash and Joe Impedimenta to mock him. He eventually overcame his speech impediment by memorizing long passages of poetry and then reciting them out loud in front of the mirror. Also going on to say that Biden attended the nearby University of Delaware, where he studied history and political science and played football. He would later admit that he spent his first 2 years of college far more interested in football, girls, and parties than academics. But he also developed a sharp interest in politics during these years, spurred in part by the inspiring inauguration of John F. Kennedy in 1961. And they also say that Biden was, at best, a mediocre law student. During his first year at Syracuse, he flunked the class for failing to properly cite a reference to a law review article. Although he claimed it was an accidental oversight, the incident would haunt him later in his career. Wow, okay. So jumping further along, from 1973 to 2009, Biden served a distinguished Senate career, which that's crazy because that's a big chunk of time. But during this time in the Senate, Biden won respect as one of the body's leading foreign policy experts, serving as a chairman of the Committee on Foreign Relations for several years. His many foreign policy positions included advocating for strategic arms limitation with the Soviet Union, promoting peace and stability in the Balkans, expanding NATO to include former Soviet bloc nations, and opposing the First Gulf War. In later years, he called for American action to end the genocide in Darfur and spoke out against President George W. Bush's handlings of the Iraq War, particularly opposing the troop surge of 2007. So then we all know that in 2007, Biden tried running for president, but didn't get enough attention from it with the craze of Clinton and Obama, which Obama later on had him as his running mate, therefore making him our vice president during Obama's presidency. Here recently, now, there's been some spicy and interesting talk about Biden's emails and what they really meant. If you guys heard about that, they were all code names like pizza and just other food names. People were decoding these names in emails. claiming that these food names were code for sex trafficking, which is a big, bold statement. So for instance, pizza was like for boys or I don't know, something like that. Basically, these people were calling Biden a pedophile, and a lot of people still do, I think, but as well as many other politicians and celebrities. These other politicians and celebrities were also being called pedophiles. So I think it was Tom Hanks is one of the big ones. And yeah, and then it was like QAnon's like against all of them and wants to try to expose them. So this is like a big, deep rabbit hole. So there's a lot of confusion on what those emails could have really meant because they were talking about weird things like having 30 minutes or I have 30 minutes. Can I come get that pizza? Something along those lines. We definitely won't be diving into this rabbit hole. And I won't say that I can 100% rule this out either personally. I'm not going to say it's not true because we don't really know, do we? But anyways, Biden has won the hearts of millions of Americans and looks to patch the divide that has been created among us. Let's just say 2020 has been crazy. I think we can all agree on that. It has been nuts. So if you guys can't tell, I don't really care for Trump. I'm not super crazy on Biden. I have hopes that he'll do great, but that's just my personal opinion. I feel that Trump's sort of privileged and kind of always has been, and he may not even know what the typical American goes through, like what we go through. He has made it very vocal how he feels about people in poverty, by the way, such as when he mocked a man at one of his rallies for getting worked up about something Trump said over food stamps. Trump made fun of his weight and made an assumption on his social class. No matter what, guys, that's not very presidential. Not only that, but how he dealt with so many touchy things such as Black Lives Matter and COVID. Like none of this really fazed him. He basically gave to the rich and mocked the poor. If you look back at Obama's speeches, you can see how he handled those who spoke out at his talks. And I urge you to do that and then compare that to Trump. Now, I do have hope for Biden, although I'm a little nervous, like I was saying. Overall, I think he will be a better president than Trump, given the fact that he came from just about nothing and has been in politics his whole life practically and seems to maybe care. Okay, that could be stretching it, but at least I think he might care more than Trump, but who's to say? Unless that's all a facade, which we know some of it has to be. Politicians, they're kind of can't be trusted. But I want to encourage all of you to have your own opinions and not cause a divide between you and someone else because of your own personal beliefs and standings on politics or whatever it is. Everything else in 2020, like COVID, for instance, too. Should I wear a mask? Blah, 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 Just remember, we all want the same things in life. And we all go out the same way as well. I think with that, we're going to wrap up this podcast. I hope you guys enjoyed the little snippet of history and chat on politics. It was very short and sweet. I'm not huge on politics, but I did have some things to say. I hope you guys are keeping safe and making the right decisions that feel right for you. I would love if you shared this podcast with friends and family, and also 5-star it, baby, if you enjoyed and are looking forward to more. We've got episodes posted every Friday, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. See you there. All right, guys. Until next time.